So, there are so many things to talk about. What I love about this new Toyota Tacoma. For anybody out there who's new to the channel, and by the way, click that subscribe button if you haven't. I have a 2024 Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport, and it is awesome, I've got to say. So far, no problems, and I love the truck. But there are 5 things off the top of my head that stand out about this truck that I really do love. Number 1, the color. You know, I've had, by the way, this is Supersonic Red, and I've had a red Tacoma before. It was the Barcelona red, which I really did like, by the way. And I will say, still, my favorite color for the Tacoma is Voodoo Blue. But this Supersonic Red is a close number 2. It is awesome. It is such a vivid, eye-catching, striking color. You can't help but not like it. Unless, of course, you just don't like the color red, because you get a ton of it on this truck. Kudos to Toyota for at least putting out 3 colors, I guess. Supersonic Red, Blue Crush, and Solar Octane. A couple others are pretty nice too, but this Supersonic Red, it is fantastic. I love it. Number 2, it's still moddable. By that, I mean you can still personalize the truck, add things to it, and make it your own. You know, that was a big thing, honestly, that I was concerned about in the beginning, is whether or not there were still going to be things out there, at least so soon after the release of this new Tacoma, that I would be able to do myself, things that I could add. Of course, you can lift it. I did that. New wheels and tires. I did that. There's videos about both on the channel. But those aren't things that I can do myself. I don't have the knowledge, honestly, or equipment to do those kind of things. But there still are a ton of other things out there that can be done with this new Tacoma. Some that I've done already, and many more that are coming. I think I've done about 9 or so mods so far on this truck. I just can't help myself. You know, my wife always tells me, well, you should slow down. You're gonna have everything done right away. And I'm like, I can't slow down. I love doing this stuff. So the fact that it's still moddable, really love that about this truck. Number 3, the gauge cluster. You know, I think that was one of the most dated things about the 3rd generation. Nothing wrong with it. It was perfectly functional. But when you get into other vehicles and you see what the manufacturers are doing with the gauge cluster, you know, something that you really ought to be looking at pretty often, right? I mean, that's where your speedometer is, isn't it? But Toyota had lagged behind, of course, with the 3rd generation Tacoma. Now we have this digital, customizable, there's so many things you can do with this gauge cluster. I can't make up my mind where I want to go. You can also change it simply by changing the drive modes, which we're going to get to in a minute. You can have a more aggressive looking cluster in front of you, or something that's maybe a little bit toned down, a little bit more laid back. You can have an RPM gauge, you can have a digital speedometer, you can have an old style analytic looking speedometer, although really it's not really old style, it's pretty modern. But I love that they changed that, brought it up to date, so that one of the things that we always look at in the truck is at least now equivalent or better than other models that are out there. Number 4, and this is awesome in this truck, the different modes. You've got 3 different modes you can choose from, just with the little selector down there in the center console area. You've got Eco, you've got Normal, and you've got Sport. Can you guess which one I drive on? You know, I love acceleration. The more the better. We will be putting a pedal commander on this truck as well, hopefully to get even a little bit more oomph when you hit that pedal, right? It's going to be very interesting to find out. But anyway, you've got Eco mode if you want to try to maximize fuel efficiency. Of course, that's going to cut down a little bit. I haven't noticed it to be a whole lot, but a little bit of the performance in the truck. Then you've got your standard or normal mode, you know, for just cruising around normally when you're not looking to be in eco mode, or you don't want the crispness of sport mode. And then sport mode. I mean, sport mode gives everything that this truck can get without doing any enhancements to it. You know, I've noticed that it stiffens up a little bit when I go to sport mode. The steering, the acceleration, and this might be in my head because there's not a huge difference, but it does feel to be a little bit more responsive in sport mode than just standard mode. And as I mentioned, when you go to the different modes, it also changes the look of the dash. When you go to sport, you get this aggressive looking picture that comes up. It doesn't stay up, it reverts to the gauges and everything else on the dash. But nonetheless, you get this aggressive looking background that tells you you're getting ready to jump into sport mode, right? Love that. Number 5, the power and acceleration of this truck. That's something that we have needed for years. I would say since probably the introduction of the 3rd generation Tacoma. It's always been gutless. Now, it's been gutless because Toyota had this built-in lag on the 3rd generation Tacoma. You know, where you hit the gas and there's a second or two or whatever before it actually realizes what you're doing and takes off. We don't have that so much anymore. There might still be a little bit of lag. I haven't really decided yet. We'll find out when we get the pedal commander on here. But anyway, they did a fantastic job. Now, this truck goes. It's actually fun to drive. And not having driven all the other options out there, I would think that this has got to be one of the quickest or most powerful off-the-line trucks, mid-sized trucks that you can get. They did just such a fantastic job on it. It's amazing. And I'm going to throw in with that the comfort. We're going to consider this the same thing because that's the other really big noticeable change that they did with this truck. I love how comfortable it is now. It's just smoother. It kind of feels like you're gliding along. It's really not fair to the truck market, I don't think, because it feels more like an SUV or luxury kind of ride, but yet it's still just a mid-sized Toyota Tacoma, right? Lastly, I got to throw in another one, and that is the stance of the truck before you do anything to it. You know, I had mentioned I put a lift on this truck, so obviously I've changed the stance. I've made it more aggressive. It's taller, right? Not hugely taller, but nonetheless taller. And even before that, this truck felt bigger. It felt more aggressive, I guess, as far as looks go. Even sitting in it now, looking out over the hood, it feels like a bigger truck. And I've pulled next to some other full-size trucks, Chevys, Fords, whatever, that aren't lifted. And I gotta say, it feels pretty close to the size of those trucks, at least just sitting in the seat. I realize dimensionally there's no way it can be as big as a full size, but you get that feeling when you're in the truck. You know, it really feels more, I guess, like a truck should. You know, a lot of people have said over the years that the Tacoma doesn't feel like a truck. I would say now it really does feel like a truck. Anyway, those are just a few things that I really love about this new Tacoma. They did a fantastic job. I highly recommend that you at least give it a chance, go out, jump in it, take it for a test drive, and see what it's all about. And if you do that, make sure you leave a comment on a video and let me know what you think. Any video, I'll see it. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.